Viola Bennet. Chapter 16. Is Love Divine? What had begun as a question of intimacy had spread into their work, their plans, and even the way they spoke to each other. The argument had started long before the meeting officially began. Viola's laptop hummed with charts and graphs, while Javier's sketchpad lay open like a battlefield map. Viola sometimes wondered when love had turned into negotiation. Once they argued about the soul of touch, now they fought about the price of beauty. The business team, driven by market research and profit margins, frequently clashed with Javier's artistic fervor. In one tense meeting about color palettes and material costs, Javier erupted. "This is rubbish," Javier muttered first, flipping his pencil in agitation. "You're asking me to gut the entire soul of the design, for 2 francs. The project manager gave a weary sigh. "Javier, this isn't an art fair. We do have a budget." Viola stepped in before he could retort again. "Let's finish the prototype first. We'll revisit the pricing later." Her tone was calm but clipped, one she used when she needed control, not comfort. Javier threw down the pencil, his jaw tightening. The meeting dissolved in uneasy silence, the tension still humming beneath the polite goodbyes. But silence rarely settled between them for long. Hours later, the argument reignited, this time in Viola's apartment. Javier stood by the window, the city lights flickering on his face. "You told me you believed in the faith in art," Javier said, voice low but sharp. "Now it feels like you care more about spreadsheets than art. Why are we still debating this instead of moving on with the budget?" Viola set down her notebook slowly, letting the click echo in the quiet room. "I believe in keeping our work alive, Javier. To do that, we have to follow the plan we made, including the budget. We've evolved. We can't keep adding every new idea that sparks in the moment. Passion alone doesn't build a brand." She leaned forward slightly, her eyes blazing. "And you need to respect the team. You've been acting like some pretentious artist who's above everyone else." Javier slammed his hands on the table, his face flushed. "And you sound just like them. A budding little businesswoman. You're selling the soul of the work for numbers on a spreadsheet. This design is supposed to inspire, not just generate money. Success means blending art with reality, Javier. Refusal to value planning is why so many art projects failed." Viola shot back. "Maybe you're too focused on success, on being this business-savvy woman, and losing sight of what truly matters." Javier's voice cracked with frustration. Viola threw up her hands, exasperated. "Ensuring success means being responsible for everyone who's involved. All I've ever done is to make this work." "Then stop killing what makes it alive," Javier shouted, taking a step back, chest heaving. For a long moment, the room held only the echoes of their words. The love they once shared, the fire, the inspiration, had grown fragile under the harsh light of reality. Their relationship was a beautiful volatile experiment on the double stage of art and commerce, teetering between passion and practicality. During the summer break of her sophomore year, Viola received news. Her best friend Lisa had successfully applied for and been approved for an exchange program to Switzerland. Viola's junior year would begin with her best friend by her side in St. Gallen. Since the heartbreak Malik caused, Lisa had avoided serious dating. The painful experience had left her fearful of getting hurt again. Viola and Javier naturally became her primary companions. To help Lisa move past her shadow, Viola often included her in their gatherings. They frequented bars by Lake Constance, chatted in Zurich's Old Town cafes, or simply drank and played games in the apartment. During these meetups, Javier's overflowing enthusiasm and boundless artistic talent exerted a powerful pull on Lisa. His burning passion for Viola filled her with a potent mix of admiration and envy. She found it impossible to tear her gaze from him. His intense focus when he spoke about art, the quick sketches he effortlessly produced, and his general air of untamed freedom captivated her. The moment came unexpectedly. Javier laughed at one of Viola's clumsy jokes, his eyes soft, his hand resting protectively on her shoulder. That simple tenderness lodged itself in Lisa's mind like a splinter. His flame, though never meant for her, still cast a light that helped her burn away the grays inside. "What's happening? This is insane. Why can't I stop thinking about him?" "No, Lisa." Her heart thudded painfully in her chest, a mix of longing and guilt that left her dizzy. She stood before the mirror, lipstick trembling in her hand, whispering the same futile prayer. "God, what's wrong with me?" "His Viola's. Stop it. Just stop it." The feeling clung to her like perfume, at first sweet, almost comforting, then choking, inescapable. Her chest tightened, and she wished she could tear the feelings from herself, wished she could ignore him as she knew she should. She pressed her palm to the cool glass, as if she could hold back her own heart, as if sheer will could make the feeling vanish. But it wouldn't. It refused. She hated herself for it, yet couldn't hate the longing that pulsed so insistently within her. No matter how hard she fought, she couldn't stop the spread of her forbidden affection. Javier became a beautiful, dangerous temptation, more alluring and more perilous than Malik had ever been. She'd usually call him under the guise of project discussions or ask for his help designing a mural for her new dorm room. Every time Javier looked at her with his captivating genuine smile, Lisa would feel a dizzying rush, drowning in guilt over betraying Viola and a consuming hunger for Javier. She never asked for more, just to be near him, just to catch a fleeting glance from his eyes, and that was happiness enough. Lisa had long sensed the quiet fracture between Viola and Javier, not the kind that breaks overnight, but the kind that grows quietly, like a crack beneath polished glass. Their love was bright, even consuming, yet it burned unevenly. Javier's passion came in fierce waves, Viola met it with restraint, and somewhere between the two, they often lost each other. Lisa was always the one in between, the listener, the peacekeeper. But what Viola never knew was that Lisa's comfort came with its own torment. Because she loved Javier too, quietly, hopelessly, in a way she could never confess. She'd watched him love Viola with that reckless warmth, the kind that made her ache both for him and for Viola. Outwardly, she was all empathy. Inwardly, she was unraveling, torn between guilt and tenderness, pity and longing. Sometimes in her darkest hours, she'd ask herself who she was really trying to comfort. Viola or herself. Her one escape was the tennis court. Sean Steiner, her coach, had become a kind of quiet refuge, patient, perceptive, with a calm that seemed to absorb her unrest. He never pried, never demanded. But his few grounded words often found their way into her thoughts long after practice ended. There was something in him that restored balance, that reminded her life could still hold steadiness amid chaos. So when Viola started to falter, the pressure, the exhaustion, the endless loop of doubt, Lisa thought of him. "Viola, you have to meet my tennis coach Sean Steiner," Lisa enthusiastically insisted over the phone one day. "He's incredible. Seriously, he's not just a coach. He's literally a doctor, but he teaches tennis part-time. He is simply a walking encyclopedia of life philosophy." Viola was a tennis enthusiast who used to play in club leagues back in Germany, questioned the suggestion. "Is he any good at actually teaching tennis, though?" Lisa chuckled. "Absolutely, he's great at tennis. He's got a well-rounded game, and his ability to spot and fix players' weaknesses is remarkable. Plus, he's handsome, fit, easy to talk to, very Swiss, reliable. You two would get along. Viola finally gave in to Lisa's persistence and began regular tennis sessions with Sean Steiner. Sean was everything Lisa had promised, professional, calm and quietly magnetic. His composure on the court carried a steadiness that drew people in. For Viola, the rhythm of the drills, the sound of the racket meeting the ball, the clean exhaustion afterward, all of it became an escape from project clashes and academic strain. As Lisa once joked, Sean's more than a coach, he's basically a therapist in sneakers. And in time, Viola began to see why. After several weeks of lessons, their conversations started stretching beyond the baseline. They'd sit on the sidelines between sets, catching their breath, swapping stories, sometimes trivial, sometimes unexpectedly honest. Viola found Sean surprisingly thoughtful, the kind of man who could turn small talk into something that lingered. "You're one of the best coaches I've ever had," Viola said one afternoon, pushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Tennis has become my best escape." Sean smiled faintly. "Thank you. And you're really good at it. Tennis is a great way to de-stress." Viola laughed softly. "Exactly. I'm always running out of time. Deadlines, classes, projects, it's endless." Sean shook his head, a small grin tugging at his lips. "Tennis players never chase every ball. They'd burn out." She said. "So simply choose the ones worth running for," he said. She leaned back, letting the sun warm her. "Easy to say, harder to do." "Life is like spin on the ball," he said, eyes thoughtful. "You can't control it. You can only read it, adjust and keep playing." Viola smiled faintly. "One of my projects collapsed last week. Weeks of work, gone." "Does it feel wasted?" Sean asked. "A kind of. Only if you stare at the outcome. A tree blossoms every year, not every flower bear fruit. Do we call the rest a waste?" "No," she said quietly. "They're part of it." He nodded. "Exactly. The process matters. What you learn stays with you." They sat in silence for a moment. The air was soft, the court empty. "You seem so calm," Viola said. "Like nothing shakes you." Sean gave a short laugh. "It's probably how I've learned to survive." Survive? Some choices keep you upright, but they don't always make you feel alive. Viola tilted her head, observing him. "Peace doesn't have to be perfect to be real." "Maybe," he said, voice low. "Or maybe it's just the quiet you learn to live with." Viola didn't press. She noticed the subtle tension in his hands, the brief shadow in his eyes. Sean's marriage had never been easy. The child had come unexpectedly, and the marriage had followed swiftly, more duty than affection. He stayed out of a sense of responsibility, not desire. He and his wife rarely argued. But sometimes, silence kills, its weight heavier than any fight. That quiet burden often showed itself in small gestures, the twisting of his wedding ring, the motion small, but precise, as if the ring itself were a reminder, a cage he couldn't escape. "There's silence that comforts," he added, voice softer now, "and silence that weighs. I've known both." "The weight feels lighter when someone notices," Viola said softly. Sean met her gaze, a flicker of something unguarded passing through his usual composure. "Maybe that's what makes you unusual." "And so you are," she replied. He smiled faintly, a warmth creeping in he didn't quite hide. The light fell across the court, and in that quiet space, something unspoken settled between them, trust, understanding, and a pull neither fully named. For a moment, Sean let himself simply play the point, letting the outcome be whatever it would. It was some sort of escape for him as well. Meanwhile, the ideological rift between Viola and Javier widened. Javier clung to his idealism, scorning money and commerce. His artistic pride made any notion of compromise intolerable. Viola, on the other hand, believed in understanding negotiation and the intelligent management of value. To her, Javier was becoming hopelessly impractical. "I just don't understand your obsession with market viability," Javier shouted, pacing the studio. "You're letting them swallow the soul of the idea. You can't measure beauty in profit margins." "But it's making things matter, Javier," Viola fired back. "This project was meant to build a bridge between art and reality, but you refuse to build yours." "I did build it, the bridge between art and its purest visual expression, but every time, you tear it down with the limits, the compromises, the numbers." Viola snapped. "Maybe you've been too spoiled by your rich family to understand art is always limited, by patrons, by buyers, by influencers. It's been that way since the very first artist." "That's absurd, Viola. My family has nothing to do with my art." Javier's voice shook. The remark had hit where it hurt most, as if his talent existed only because of privilege. Viola immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, Javier, I didn't mean." "Enough, Viola. Let the sponsors and their limits go to hell." The words echoed. Silence followed, thick and poisonous. Javier stood still for a moment, chest rising fast, his hands trembling slightly as if even anger had drained him. Then, almost instinctively, he reached for her, pulling Viola into his arms before she could turn away. "I'm sorry," he whispered against her hair. His voice cracked, not loud but raw, stripped of pride. He pressed a kiss to her forehead, desperate and tender all at once. "Let's leave the project," he said. "Walk away from it, please. I can't watch it take you from me." Viola's breath caught. The words landed heavy, love wrapped in fear, care twisted into a plea. For a moment, she wanted to say yes. To stop fighting, to let herself fall back into that warmth that once felt like safety. But something inside her, that quiet, stubborn core, rose instead. Her voice shook, but it was steady in meaning. "I can't, Javier," she said. He closed his eyes, holding her tighter, as if his arms could keep her from drifting toward the life he couldn't follow. The inevitable conflict exhausted Viola. She seriously began to question if their passionate love could withstand the weight of reality. In the aftermath of these fights, Sean became Viola's grounding force. With his calm, insightful demeanor, he helped her navigate her professional and emotional confusion. "You are trying to hold two different worlds together," Sean told her during a break, his eyes now carrying that distinct, gentle warmth. "The artist lives in the ideal, the manager lives in the possible. Both are valid, but they rarely share a common language." Viola looked at him. "You said the truth." From some unknown moment, Sean had been deeply drawn to this young woman. His gaze carried a forbidden tenderness. The attachment in his eyes made the air around them subtly charged. Viola quickly noticed the change in Sean's eyes. That warmth transcending the student-coach boundary made her uneasy. She didn't want to misjudge him, but the memory of his gaze lingered unsettlingly warm. At a coffee meetup with Lisa, Viola decided to be upfront. "I think Sean has a crush on me, Lisa. It's subtle, but it's there." Viola stirred her coffee, troubled. He's clearly in pain in his marriage. But when he looked at me, it made me uncomfortable. I need to back off, right? Lisa laughed nonchalantly. Don't overthink it. He's your tennis coach. Maybe he just makes you feel grounded. You deserve to feel balanced again. It's a good thing. He's probably just being nice. And even if he's a little into you, so what? Lisa paused, her tone becoming concerned. You and Javier are fighting constantly. You need an outlet, someone to vent to about the project differences. Sean gives you that stability that Javier frankly doesn't right now. Don't push him away. He seems to really get you, and right now, that's rare. Viola looked at Lisa, still harboring doubts, but thinking of the endless arguments with Javier, she tacitly accepted Lisa's advice. While Viola wrestled with confusion, Lisa, almost without realizing it, nudged things in a new direction. She learned from Elias that he had completed his university degree in advance and had an opportunity for a 3-month practical project in Switzerland not far from St. Gallen. Lisa immediately encouraged him to seize the chance. Elias, St. Gallen is the perfect base for that kind of project. You should absolutely come. Viola would be thrilled to see you. She really needs a familiar face right now. Lisa artfully hinted at the cracks in Viola's relationship. She didn't realize it, her encouragement seemed harmless. But fate has a way of turning simple gestures into catalysts. That afternoon, Viola had just finished her tennis lesson. Sean, as usual, was chatting with her courtside. Viola once again confided in him about the project disputes and the intense fight she'd had with Javier earlier that day, questioning if their passionate but fragile relationship was sustainable. I'm quite confused about our conflict. He sees the world in black and white, I see the value in the grey. Is passion ever enough, or does it just not fit anymore? Viola's voice was filled with pain and exhaustion. He looked at her tenderly, moving closer. He felt her exhaustion and frustration from all the endless debates. Passion always fades, Viola. It just does. Sean murmured, his voice magnetic and touched with worldly weariness. What lasts isn't passion, it's understanding. It's being seen, really seen, for who you are, for calming the storm instead of creating one. That's what makes people stay. He spoke, it seemed, as much to himself as to her. He reached out, lightly touching Viola's shoulder, his eyes burning into hers, his face drawing close. The gesture was clearly crossing a line. For a brief moment, Viola felt the air shift, the professional calm between them blurring into something more intimate. She should have stepped back, said something neutral, but the exhaustion of the day made her slow to react. It was at that moment that Javier walked onto the court. He had come to apologize to Viola, hoping to end their earlier fight. But Javier witnessed Sean's intimate gesture and heard the key phrases about passion fades and not fit. His anger reignited. For a second, he froze. The sight of Sean's hand on Viola's shoulder burned into his vision like a photograph he couldn't unsee. He said nothing, his silence colder than anger. He kept, until they reached the restaurant. In the restaurant, Viola, still processing her feelings, referenced the coach's words. Javier, we need to apply emotional intelligence here. Sean said that. Javier's jaw tightened. He set down his fork with deliberate care, then suddenly slammed it against the plate. Sean said. Javier's restraint shattered. His voice barely contained a roar. I don't even care what your goddamn tennis coach said. I care what you think. I care why you are constantly taking advice from this man. Javier, oh my God. What's your problem? His suspicious gaze pierced Viola. How many times a week are you really coming here to play tennis, Viola? Or should I say, how many sessions of wisdom? Are you seeking wisdom or something else? No, Javier. I didn't seek anything beyond coaching. Do you want to continuously fight with me in this public location? What do you want, Javier? Javier responded with pain and fury. Exactly, not beyond. Sorry, I don't understand. Then what was that moment on the court? Not letting me in, but letting him touch you and almost kiss you in public? You preach purity and principles, but you live a lie, Viola. Viola's tears burst forth. It's not what you think. I regard him only as a friend. He was just comforting me, and he's safe. You don't understand the pressure, the work-life balance, the constant feeling that I'm disappointing you. We're exhausted, Javier. Every time we fight, I feel like I'm shrinking just to keep this alive. We are just too tired to keep sacrificing our own true nature for this relationship. Javier cried out in despair. Sacrifice? You call this sacrifice? I gave you everything. You gave me a locked door and a philosophical debate. Outside, snow began to fall quietly, each flake indifferent to their chaos. The world went on, unaware of the storm inside the restaurant. Their argument escalated, drawing stares from other diners. Their words became knives. Finally, Javier suppressed his anger and let the cutting words out. Maybe we should just end this. I am afraid that I can't recognize you, Viola, or you are completely changed to someone I don't know. All this time I thought, maybe I was never enough, not for your mind, not for the part of you that reaches out when you think no one's watching. I'm tired. I'm so damn tired of fighting for a place in your life. If you can't trust me and you prefer your philosopher coach, then leave. Go. Go. Viola's face went instantly white. Unable to bear Javier's accusations and suspicion, tears streamed down her face. She sobbed and ran out of the restaurant. As she reached the door, she collided right into the late-arriving Lisa and Elias. Elias saw Viola's tear-streaked, distraught face. Without hesitation, he immediately ran after her. Lisa froze for a moment. Her eyes followed them, Viola's trembling figure, Elias's worried steps. A sharp ache shot through her chest. They will find each other finally, she thought, but the worry about Javier forced her to rush into the restaurant. Viola's breakdown was complete once she was outside. The professional rifts, the failure to maintain balance with Javier, and the complex emotions stirred by Elias's coming all surged together. He caught her by the shoulders, feeling the tremor beneath his palms. Something inside him, long buried, stirred painfully and tenderly. Viola, be calm. I'm here. Don't worry. Tell me what happened. You're shaking. Elias asked anxiously, his voice laced with concern. The cold night settled over St. Gallen, and snow constantly drifted down, mirroring the icy despair in Viola's heart. Viola couldn't hold back any longer. She wrapped her arms around Elias, burying her face in his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Elias held her tightly, her tears soaking his shirt, offering the comfort she desperately needed without asking questions. It's okay. Deep breaths, Viola, deep breaths, Elias whispered into her ear. You're safe. Whatever it is, we'll handle it. Just let it out. He stroked her hair gently, his action carrying a timeless tenderness, like returning to the days of their youth when they faced the world together. Elias took her back to her apartment and waited patiently for her to finish crying. That familiar, secure presence allowed Viola to drop all her defenses. Viola finally poured out everything, the philosophical conflicts with Javier, her doubts about their future, and the explosive fight in the restaurant. He accused me, Elias. He thinks I'm looking for something else with Sean, Viola choked out. Elias gently patted her back, his eyes complex. He noted that despite dating Javier, Viola still lived alone. There was no trace of him having stayed in the apartment. This confirmed his inner suspicion. Their relationship was not as deep or solid as it seemed. He simply comforted her, assuring her he would never judge. Don't worry about what he said when he was angry. That wasn't the real words. You're under immense stress, Viola. Just focus on resting. Viola listened to his calm, steady voice. It lacked Javier's intense passion but was deep and reassuring. He was still the composed, insightful Elias. Viola felt a sense of peace she hadn't experienced in a long time. Meanwhile, Lisa accompanied Javier back to his apartment. As soon as they entered, Javier trashed the place, unable to contain his rage and the pain of breaking up. He grabbed a bottle of liquor and drank heavily. She thinks I'm a joke. A passionate distraction. You guys wouldn't believe it. I never really had her, never ever. Javier groaned in agony, burying his face in his hands. Lisa stood by the doorway, startled. For a long moment, she didn't know what to do. Then she stepped forward softly, as if she could see straight through the storm raging inside him. Javier, stop torturing yourself. You're not the problem. You never were. She reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from his forehead and letting her hand linger on his cheek for a heartbeat. Her voice softened, carrying warmth and quiet authority. You love too deeply, Javier. Maybe she just couldn't bear the weight of it. That's not your fault. His eyes were unfocused, somewhere between relief and despair. Lisa stayed close, letting him feel her presence without forcing anything. She whispered, almost to herself. It's all right. Whatever you need to let out, let it out. The quiet tension between them was almost tangible. Javier's shoulders trembled, but he did not move away. Lisa touched his cheek and then her hand down to his shoulder gently, her gazing full of emotion. Her presence remained, steady and warm, like a safe harbor amidst his turmoil. She couldn't help but draw closer to him. The quiet suffering etched into his features, shattered her heart. She wanted to soften him with her warmth, her touch, to bring back the vibrant, passionate Javier she once knew. In that moment, she ached to wrap her arms around him tightly, and kiss him, to let him feel the certainty of her unconditional love. But all she could do was lay a gentle hand on him, pouring every drop of love she had into that fragile touch. Javier flinched, torn between the comfort she offered and the sharp sting of guilt. Finally, Javier spoke, voice low and strained. Don't, Lisa, please. You know me. I'd rather be broken by her than healed by somebody else. I thank you for your comfort, but sorry. Please just leave me alone. He closed his eyes, anguish written in every line of his face, and Lisa quietly stepped back, her own heart aching, knowing she could only watch as he wrestled with the love he could not surrender. I know you love her, Javier. But love shouldn't be this painful. It shouldn't be a constant battle between who you are and who she wants you to be. Take care, Javier. I will always be here with you. Over the next few days, Lisa was busy running errands for both Javier and Viola, fetching coffee, tidying Javier's apartment, and checking on Viola's well-being. But mostly, she stayed beside Javier, unable to leave him to his own despair. Elias would take good care of Viola, he always did. But Javier's pain and despair were only seen by me, she thought. She desperately wanted to help him recover. But inside, a quiet selfish hope began to grow. If she stayed long enough, maybe he'd finally see her. Sometimes, when Javier sat in silence staring out the window, Lisa would watch him and feel the weight of everything she knew pressing down on her. She knew Elias had always loved Viola. It was written in the way he looked at her, calm but unshakable, like the tide returning to shore. And Viola, no matter how hard she tried to convince herself otherwise, had never been free of him. There was a wall between her and Javier, invisible yet absolute. A wall called Elias. Maybe that was why Viola hesitated. Why Javier never had her completely. Because some loves, Lisa thought bitterly, don't disappear, they just sleep beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to breathe again. Lisa sighed inwardly. Maybe Elias and Viola were meant for each other. Maybe that was the balance the universe kept trying to restore. But where did that leave Javier? His love was too pure, too fierce to understand such quiet, resigned devotion. She wanted to help them all, Javier, Viola, even Elias, but she didn't know how. She only knew she couldn't watch Javier break apart. So, she stayed. She kept talking, smiling, finding reasons to be there. Lisa, desperate to help Javier breathe again, often dragged him outside for a walk. Come on, Harvey, walk outside with me, get some sunshine, some air, some energy, she said, her voice bright and trembling, like she was convincing herself as much as him. For a while, they just walked. The sound of gravel underfoot filled the silence. Lisa stole a glance at him, the deep crease between his brows, the faint tremor in his jaw. It pained her. He wasn't angry anymore, he was simply lost. He's still with her, Lisa thought. Even when he's not speaking her name, she's everywhere around him, the way he pauses, the way his eyes flicker when the wind changes. He was still breathing in her absence. She wanted to say something comforting, but all the words felt small. So she just walked closer, close enough that their arms brushed once, accidentally, deliberately. They turned a corner, crossing the park and heading to a familiar direction. Down the narrow street, through the thin veil of trees, they suddenly noticed Elias. He was standing in front of Viola's house, holding a small paper bag, searching for the key in his pocket. Javier froze. His heartbeat stumbled. He watched as Elias entered Viola's apartment with a key, his movements natural and familiar. He pushed every buried emotion to the surface, jealousy, anger, helplessness, and the bitter sting of being left out of her heart. Back at his apartment, Javier can't help himself, his voice raw with pain. It's true, isn't it? He was the one all along, the one standing between us. His eyes were hollow with despair. Elias is her past, you know that, they have at least friendship, if Elias can comfort her, then why not? Lisa said continue, maybe Viola just wants something different now, Lisa said softly, her eyes dim. She's always been chasing balance, maybe too hard. It doesn't mean she doesn't love you. Javier suddenly felt utterly worthless in Viola's eyes. Sean, Elias. Whenever Viola reached out for help, it was never him. Then who was he to her? A decoration? A distraction? Something convenient? No. Deep down, he knew he had never truly had her love, not fully. The thought stabbed through him. Everything in him finally broke. After sleepless nights wrestling with his own heart, Javier made a drastic decision. He would leave the project behind, leave Switzerland, fly to Africa and immerse himself once more in his pure world of art. He told Lisa and handed in his resignation to Professor Schmidt. Sensing his resolute determination, Lisa decided to put her studies in Switzerland on hold and abandon everything to go with him to Africa. It's crazy, but it feels right. She brought her suitcase to Javier's apartment. Javier, if you really go, I'll go with you. I can't stay here pretending I don't care. I know you still love her, but maybe we can find something new somewhere far away. I'll take care of you, no matter what. Lisa's hands reached for him, desperate and unguarded, her eyes full of a love he could never return. Javier, I fell in love with you since the first time I saw you. You can't imagine how hard it's been, holding it all inside. Please, take me with you. Lisa's voice trembled, raw with longing. Her hands pressed against him, desperate to convey everything words could not. She wasn't calculating, wasn't trying to manipulate, she just needed him to know. He didn't love her, nor did he want her, but he felt the weight of her words hit him, the force of her love undeniable. He didn't return it, but he could not ignore the intensity of her devotion, the devotion like a mirror, reflecting all the rage, grief and jealousy he felt toward Viola. For a brief, dark instant, he allowed it to fuel the storm inside him, giving shape to the ache he could not release anywhere else. He stiffened slightly as she hugged and kissed him, aware of every motion, but his heart remained locked on Viola. Still in that embrace, he allowed himself a fleeting vindication, to feel wanted, to feel envy, to release a fragment of grief without touching the woman he truly loved.